Hey Deckers, today I'm going to have a look at the UGREEN Steam Deck dock. This is a 6-in-1 dock made specifically for the Steam Deck and has many great features, starting with the 4K 60Hz HDMI, which can also support up to 240Hz on the 1080p and 144 at 2K. We have Gigabit Ethernet, the 100-watt PD pass-through for the power, and we actually have a USB-C usable as well as the other two USB available on here as well, with one side mounted, which is very useful. The USB-C as well as the USB-A ports do support up to 5 gigabits per second, so you're not going to have any issues with anything that you connect. So this is the first dock that we've actually used with a usable USB-C as well as USB-A. Now, one thing to point out, yes, it does slightly cover the vent because it's got quite a high back, but it does also sit quite tilted as well. It sits very nicely in the dock, but the silicone pad does give just about enough gap at the back, especially when it's in a case, which it fits quite snugly. Then it does give a decent gap at the back for the airflow to still come in. However, when the Steam Deck is completely naked, that gap is quite minimal, so the silicone pad does push it out a little bit, but it does still block that back vent very slightly, but it's not enough to really make a huge problem. And if it does get quite warm and you want that extra intake, you can just push it over to the side slightly to increase that flow. But actually with a case on, that gap is actually even better. This is one of the smaller form factor docks, which is very good because it sits quite nicely on the desk. It does make it a little bit crowded once you've got everything plugged in there. So let's get literally everything plugged in. If you haven't come across UGREEN before, they've been around quite a while and we've actually used several of their products already, and we should have a link to our M2 dock from UGREEN as well. And they also do tons of cables, which have always been extremely good quality. So we've been using UGREEN a while, so I've been quite happy that they reached out to us here. This review is sponsored by UGREEN, so you are watching this completely ad-free, and there is a link to the dock in the description below, which we may get a slight commission for if you make a purchase, so feel free to use it. USB-C is exceptionally handy, especially if you have that external M2 drive like we have for running things like Windows or just having that additional storage in SteamOS. I've got a wireless keyboard with the USB adapter. You can see once we've put the Steam Deck power adapter in as well, we've got a light to say that that is active. I'll plug the Gigabit Ethernet in and my display port as well. Now this side mounted USB is actually extremely handy if you want to attach a wired controller, as it does make it a bit easier for coming forward. Now I've only got a short unbranded cable. Most of my others are branded, so I'm just going to use the short cable here as I'm quite close to it anyway. So I can plug in a Series X controller. It has the standard right angle connector for the connection to the Steam Deck, which is a snug fit and easy to pull off, but isn't the easiest to unclip as it doesn't have a thumb section like the official dock, and it doesn't have the right angle connector at the back, so you still get that slight bend as you do in others. But the length is good and there is no issue with connecting it to Steam Decks with cases on. So I'm going to show off some gameplay here with all this connected up on Spider-Man. Now first off, I have let the output resolution be 4K, but I've kept the deck in the standard mode with dock, so this is going to still think it's 800p or 720p, but it will upscale the image automatically to 4K. So as you can see here, it's still pretty much exactly how it would look on the Steam Deck playing Spider-Man, but it's upscaled on the screen. So unless you stand back somewhat, it's going to look a bit grainy because it's that 720p image upscaled to 4K. However, thanks to the settings on the dock, we can actually make true 4K in the game if we go into the properties of the game and change the game resolution to 4K. This will now give us the ability to have full 4K in the game as well. You can see here with it all connected up, I've now got full 4K. However, the Steam Deck does struggle to play at full 4K resolution, but the dock is definitely capable of outputting it. So as you can see here, full 4K in Spider-Man on the lowest settings, because that's the only way we're going to get any decent frames. However, it doesn't hold over 30 frames per second at this resolution. It does look glorious though, so hats off on that one. But what I have found is if you do want to have that better resolution but still have the 4K output, is if we drop this resolution down to 1440p, then we do get a usable 30 to 35 frames per second. We get the 4K output of the dock, and it looks absolutely glorious. So if you don't like that upscaled low resolution, then this is a great medium, or you can always put it at 1080p for the output as well, so you get better upscaling out of the dock, but you will have to increase that on the game. Otherwise the deck will still cap you out at 720p or 800p depending on the monitor that you're connected to. Overall, the UGREEN dock has been exceptionally good. It's extremely good at the power and heat dissipation as well. It doesn't get anywhere near as hot as some of the previous docks that we've used. And all of the footage that you've seen on the channel over the last week has actually been recorded using this dock. So it's definitely worth having a look at. And depending on the time you're looking at this, there may also be an additional discount on the dock. So check out the link below and the article on the website. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.